The Bears are sitting on a mountain of resources, and there's an absolute game wrecker who might be available. Let's break down why trading for Trey Hendrickson could be the decision that transforms this franchise. First, let's paint the picture of where the Bears stand right now. Ryan Poles has methodically built this team into a sleeping giant. They've got the first overall pick. They've got the 10th overall pick. They're loaded with day 2 selections. And that cap space, it's massive. We're talking about one of the healthiest financial situations in the NFL. But before we dive into the trade possibilities, let me tell you what makes Trey Hendrickson special. This isn't just another good pass rusher. We're talking about a guy who's been absolutely terrorizing quarterbacks for 3 straight years. 17.5 sacks last season, the same number the year before. 3 consecutive seasons with at least 14 sacks since joining Cincinnati. That's not just good, folks. Oh, but that's elite. Let me break down his game for you. Hendrickson's got this incredible first step. It's explosive. It's violent. But here's what separates him from other speed rushers. He's got power, too. He can convert speed to power better than almost anyone in the league. One play, he's bending around the edge. The next, he's bull rushing straight through a tackle. That versatility, that's what makes him special. Now let's talk about what's happening in Cincinnati. The Bengals are in a fascinating position. Hendrickson wants a new contract, and he's earned it. But Cincinnati's been unusually quiet about an extension. They've got Joe Burrow's massive contract on the books. They've got Jamar Chase's payday coming up. Something's got to give, and that's where the Bears come in. Think about what Chicago already has on defense. Montez Sweat came in mid-season and immediately changed the entire dynamic of the pass rush. But even Sweat needs a running mate. The great defenses in NFL history, they always had multiple threats coming off the edge. Richard Dent had Dan Hampton. Julius Peppers had Israel Idonije. Khalil Mack had Robert Quinn. You need that 1-2 punch. Let's talk specific numbers for a second. The Bears' defense ranked 30 worst in sacks last season before the Sweat trade. After, they jumped to middle of the pack. Now, imagine adding another elite pass rusher to the mix. We're not talking about just improving. We're talking about potentially having one of the most feared pass rush duos in the NFL. Here's where it gets really interesting. The compensation package. My sources around the league suggest the starting point would be 2 second-round picks. Maybe a second and a fourth if Poles plays his cards right. For perspective, that's less than what the Bears gave up for Chase Claypool. Think about that. A proven elite pass rusher might cost less than what they paid for Claypool. That's the kind of value that can change a franchise. But let's dig deeper into why this makes so much sense schematically. Matt Eberflus runs a defense predicated on getting pressure with 4 rushers. He doesn't want to blitz. He wants his front 4 to create havoc, while the back 7 plays disciplined coverage. Adding Hendrickson to Sweat? That's exactly how you make that system work. And here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Hendrickson's impact on run defense. Everyone knows about the sacks, but this guy sets a mean edge. He's disciplined, he's tough. He doesn't just pin his ears back and rush upfield every play. That's crucial in the NFC North, where you're facing strong running teams like the Lions and Packers. But let's talk about the ripple effects across the defense. When you have 2 elite edge rushers, everything changes. The interior defenders get more one-on-one opportunities. The linebackers can play more aggressively because they know the edges are contained. The secondary doesn't have to cover as long. It's a complete transformation of your defensive identity. I've been studying film on Hendrickson for years, and there's something special about his technique. He's got this incredible ability to use his hands. He's got a devastating long arm move. His spin move is elite. But what really sets him apart is his ability to string moves together. If his first move doesn't work, he's got a counter. If that doesn't work, he's got another counter. That's rare. Let's talk about the practice field impact I've talked to coaches and players who've been around Hendrickson. They all say the same thing. This guy makes everyone better. His work ethic is legendary. His attention to detail in practice is incredible. For a young Bears defensive line, that kind of leadership is invaluable. And think about the timing. The Bears are likely drafting a quarterback at number 1 overall. Whether it's Caleb Williams or someone else, you know what helps a young QB succeed? A dominant defense, short fields, extra possessions, less pressure to score 30 points every game. Adding Hendrickson helps you build that kind of defense. Let's look at the broader NFC North landscape. The Lions are ascending, coming off a conference championship appearance. The Packers found their quarterback in Jordan Love. The Vikings are retooling, but still dangerous. The Bears need something to separate themselves from the pack. A dominant pass rush could be that difference. Here's another factor to consider, the Bears' secondary. They've got young, talented players back there. Eddie Jackson provides veteran leadership. Kyler Gordon is developing. Jaquan Brisker is a rising star, but even the best secondary can only cover for so long. Adding Hendrickson would make their jobs significantly easier. Let's talk about the financial aspect in detail. Yes, Hendrickson would need a new contract, but the Bears are perfectly positioned to handle that. They've got over $100 million in cap space. They've been smart with their money. They can structure a deal that works for both sides without compromising their ability to make other moves. And speaking of other moves, adding Hendrickson doesn't prevent you from addressing other needs. The Bears would still have the 1st overall pick. They'd still have the 10th overall pick. They'd still have significant cap space. This isn't an either-or situation. This is a move that makes everything else easier. Let's look at some historical comparisons. When the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, it immediately transformed their defense. When they signed Julius Peppers, same thing. Great pass rushers change everything. They make average defenses good and good defenses great. Hendrickson could have that same kind of impact. Now, let's address some potential concerns. Yes, Hendrickson is 29, but pass rushers can play at a high level well into their 30s. Look at Von Miller. Look at Cameron Jordan. When you have refined technique like Hendrickson, you're not solely reliant on athleticism. His game should age well. Here's another thing about Hendrickson that doesn't get enough attention: his ability to close out games. Late in the 4th quarter, when you need a stop, he delivers. The Bears lost several close games last year. One more pass rush win in those situations could have changed their entire season. Let's talk about the impact on the rest of the defensive line. Gervon Dexter showed flashes as a rookie. Andrew Billings is solid against the run. But imagine how much better they could be with Hendrickson and Sweat demanding attention on the edges. Those interior players would feast on one-on-one matchups. And think about the blitz packages Eberflus could design. When you have 2 elite edge rushers, you can get creative. You can move them around. You can create confusion. You can disguise coverages. The possibilities are endless. Let's look at some advanced stats. Hendrickson's pressure rate is elite. His win rate against offensive tackles is among the best in the league. But here's what's really impressive: his consistency. He doesn't disappear for long stretches. He affects every game he plays in. Now let's talk about the Bears' defensive identity. This is a franchise built on defensive excellence. From the '85 Bears to the 2006 Super Bowl team to the 2018 division champions, when the Bears are at their best, they're terrorizing quarterbacks. Adding Hendrickson helps restore that identity. Here's something else to consider: the Bears' home field advantage. Soldier Field can be one of the toughest places to play in the NFL, but you need a defense that feeds off that energy, a pass rush that gets the crowd going. Hendrickson brings that kind of electricity. Let's talk about the impact on the division rivals. The Lions' offensive line is one of the best in football. The Packers are building a strong unit. The Vikings have invested heavily up front. To compete in this division, you need guys who can win those battles in the trenches. And think about the playoff picture. The NFC is wide open right now. The Bears are closer to contention than many people think. Adding a player like Hendrickson could be the move that pushes them over the top. Let's look at some specific matchups. Twice a year against Penei Sewell, twice against Christian Darrisaw. These are the kinds of battles that decide division titles. Having Hendrickson for those games could be the difference between making the playoffs and watching from home. Here's another factor: the Bears' defensive coaching staff. They've shown they can develop talent. They've shown they can scheme up pressure. But giving them a weapon like Hendrickson, that takes everything to another level. Let's talk about the long-term vision. The Bears aren't just building for 2025. They're building a sustainable contender. Hendrickson fits that timeline perfectly. He's got several prime years left. He could be a cornerstone piece as this team rises to prominence. And think about the message it sends to the rest of the league. The Bears aren't just accumulating draft picks and cap space. They're aggressive, they're bold, they're ready to win now. That matters when you're trying to attract free agents and build a winning culture. Let's look at some potential contract structures. A 4-year deal worth around $90 million. That's reasonable in today's market. The Bears could front-load it to take advantage of their current cap space. They could guarantee the first 2 years heavily. There are lots of ways to make it work. Now let's talk about the immediate impact on the 2025 season. The Bears' schedule isn't easy. They'll face some high-powered offenses. Having a pass rush that can disrupt those passing attacks is crucial. Hendrickson provides that disruption consistently. Here's something else to consider: the practice field battles. Imagine Hendrickson going against the Bears' offensive tackles every day in practice. That makes everyone better. That raises the level of competition. That's how you build a championship culture. Let's look at the bigger NFL picture. The teams that have had sustained success recently, what do they have in common? Strong pass rush. The Chiefs, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Ravens, they all can get after the quarterback. The Bears have a chance to join that group. And think about the playoff implications. In January, when the weather turns cold and the passing games get more difficult, what wins games? Pass rush and running the ball. Adding Hendrickson strengthens one of those pillars significantly. Here's my bottom line. The Bears have a rare opportunity here. They have the resources, they have the need, they have the perfect scheme fit, and most importantly, they have a chance to add a game-changing player who could help define this defense for years to come. Ryan Poles has shown he's not afraid to make bold moves. The Montez Sweat trade proved that. Now it's time for the next big swing. Get Hendrickson in Chicago, pair him with Sweat, build a defense that strikes fear into opponents. That's how you return to glory. So what do you think, Bears Nation? Should Poles pull the trigger on a Hendrickson trade? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more Bears coverage like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. We've got tons more content coming your way as we head into this crucial offseason. Until next time, bear down!